Welcome to Spacevidcast 5.06 for Saturday, April 28th, 2012. My name is Benjamin. She's laughing because she saw what I just did there, which was I had no idea what day it was, so I really quickly went over on the computer and went up to the date and time and just read it to you. My name is Benjamin Higginbotham. With me, as always, is the beautiful, lovely, wonderful, and talented Carrie Ann Higginbotham. We are going to be your hosts for this show this afternoon, and I have...
as opposed to any other show that we do where we're not actually hosting.
That's correct.
Yes.
So let's go ahead and get started with some space news. Actually, I'll end the show. We're going to do some space news, and then our main topic today is going to be planetary resources, and then after that break, we're going to come back with the viewer comments and whatnot. So if you're watching on YouTube, those are your 3 breaking points for the different stories we have today. This first story we have, you put in the timeline as Reason TV has their fingers on the pulse of the current space industry. Did you put that in there? Or is it one of our viewers?
No, that is how I wrote it.
So before we talk about it, I think we should air it and see what other people think, because it's slightly polarizing. But here you go. This story comes from the final flights of the space shuttles, in that they're on their shuttle carrier aircraft being moved to their final position. Space Shuttle Discovery, Space Shuttle Enterprise. So setting up the story, that's what it is. So here you go. I'll leave it at that.
So the Space Shuttle Discovery has flown its last mission. It has been towed over the nation's capital like a bruised Chevy after a demolition derby before being deposited at the Udvar-Hazy Air and Space Museum in Northern Virginia. Other space junkers, Atlantis and Endeavour, they're being retired like Brett Favre in a pair of Crocs, bringing an end to an underwhelming 3 decades of fruitless and tragic exploration of low Earth orbiting patterns. Now let's face it, once we beat the Russians to the moon, the national rocket grew limper than Liberace at a speculum convention. NASA has been dining out on a single 1969 hit longer than Zager and Evans. The good news is that amateur hour is now over, and the private space race has begun. Where 2 Cold War superpowers failed, let 1,000 business plans bloom. The future of space is in the hands of guys behind Amazon, PayPal, and Virgin. The force of competition will create endless possibilities and unimaginable technologies. No more talking about how the space program brought us Tang and Tempur-Pedic mattresses. We're going to Mars, baby. Business class. Virgin's Richard Branson has already signed up more stars than there are in heaven, and his regular press releases read like TMZ. Ashton Kutcher, Katy Perry, and Angelina Jolie have all reserved space on the first civilian flights to the great beyond. The International Space Station will continue as a government-run intergalactic DMV, but at least the spaceships schlepping materials and mouth breathers to and from will soon be operated by private vendors at an expected 90% discount. That should put plenty more celebrities and civilians in the mood to join the 30 Mile High Club. Grr. The founder of Budget Suites, Robert Bigelow, has already launched experimental modules. He's dreaming of putting affordable hotels, complete with bedspreads soaked in alien DNA. They're going in orbit, and PayPal's Elon Musk has said he wants to die on Mars, preferably in a colony established by SpaceX, his company that's hell-bent not just on leaving Earth, but getting you to the red planet in style. Now, nobody knows exactly how private space exploration and entrepreneurship will play out, but it's a lock. The next 30 years won't resemble our government-run space program's decades-long failure to launch anything more inspiring than Josie and the Pussycats in outer space. Space out.
So, that was the clip.
Yep.
Polarizing. The chat room basically was like, I don't like her, or do I like her? I can't tell.
So Kennedy started off, I'm sure she did other things before she did MTV, but she was on MTV for quite a while, has always sort of spoken her mind, etc., and now she's involved with Reason.tv, is obviously continuing to speak her mind. Everyone is entitled to their opinions. Yes, her voice is slightly annoying. But other than that, I thought it was, in my mind, a little refreshing, because she's clearly not in either camp, really. She's definitely not cold space.
She called NASA amateur hour. Did anyone else catch that?
Which I thought was hysterical.
These guys put humans on the moon, and they're the amateurs.
But they haven't done anything since.
That's not true either. That's way Okay. So anyhow,
it gets the conversation going, doesn't it?
So we'd love to know what you think in the comments right below. Leave your comments. What did you think of that particular clip? But the fundamental news part of that was how Space Shuttle Discovery and Enterprise are moving and slinging around the country to their permanent homes in museums, and that happened. And you saw actually the clips in the very beginning of that happening. This is about to end. There is a Kickstarter project for something called the HERMES spacecraft.
Yes.
And actually, there's a really great video that outlines what this is. So I want to show it to you. It's going to end in just a couple of hours. My hope is that these guys will, they've got the funding for this round that they asked for already. Right. But my hope is that they'll open up additional rounds of funding to do more and more projects, because I just thought this is really cool. And it's real. They have hardware, and they're going to show you to you. Here you go. This is HERMES. Check this out. It's really freaking cool.
Hi, I'm Morris Jarvis.
And I'm Chris Schneider. And I'm Mark Longenbach.
And this is the HERMES spacecraft. I grew up in a time when we saw astronauts walking on the moon. We saw orbital flight was everywhere you went. And I always dreamed of being an astronaut growing up. Well, I never got the chance, so I decided we were going to go off and do it ourselves. So what you see here is the culmination of that dream. We're creating the HERMES spacecraft to fly passengers, private passengers, into outer space to an altitude of about 60 miles. The whole thing is intended for anybody who has a desire or the passion to go into space to be able to do that. The HERMES, as you can see, is based a lot on a space shuttle. We based a lot of the aerodynamics and the shape on a space shuttle because we got a lot of valuable lessons learned there. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. So what we've done here is all out of our pocket. We've all donated our time, our funds, whatever to get to this point. We ran across Kickstarter, and we thought that was an awesome way to get to the next level. So what we're doing right now is building our propulsion systems and testing our small-scale engine tests. What we want Kickstarter for is to scale it up to the full-size engine test. We figure about $20,000 will get us to what we need for a full-scale engine test and to test all the systems together.
Full-size engine tests are critical to ensure we made the right selection for our engine assembly. We know they work for our small guys. Now it's time to prove our concept will actually put you into space. So we are building a fully autonomous rocket monitoring and test system to make sure that our engine firings are safe and they occur exactly the way that we want to. That's where most of our budget is. It's actually getting the data acquisition hardware, which most of it we're trying to acquire from National Instruments, and also a lot of sensors that we don't yet have. Your contributions will also help us buy the rest of the materials that we need, such as for our nozzle, some of our connectors, extra oxidizer tanks, and a bunch of other equipment that we need to make this project successful. Please take a look at our tiers. We're offering exclusive access to updates, pictures, and videos of our progress, HERMES Pit Crew shirts, and a handcrafted model of the HERMES spacecraft.
So I don't know if you guys have been watching the news headlines lately, but the space race has restarted. So please come and join us for the ride.
So the chat room, being the chat room, basically said, I make my own spacecraft at home. What was it?
That's our chat room.
Yeah, it is our chat room.
Oh, it's very cool. Somebody suggested
Toy shuttle with people who can't fund their weekend project. It isn't doing anything new, nor does it make anything inspiring. And I'm going to argue with the chat room and say, yeah, ouch, A, ouch. But B, not everything in space has to be inspiring. This is, this could help radically reduce the cost of travel to space. This is a bunch of people doing this. The fact that we've got a bunch of people in their garage making a spaceship. Let's say that again. There are a bunch of people in their garage making a spaceship.
And not like the farmer astronaut style, some crazy guy making something like in his back shed.
I support that, and I don't think it has to be large government. I don't even think it has to be large corporations. I yearn for a day where mere mortals can build spaceships in their garage. Yeah. You can do that with airplanes right now if you have enough money. Why can't you do it with spaceships? I know, blah, blah, blah. It takes a lot of energy and power. But you know what? There will be a day when we can do that, and I think we're on the cusp of that. That's why this is exciting. Yeah. So, don't blow it out of the water just for that. All right. I'm going to skip those two stories. There are additional stories that are available in the wiki article for this particular episode, but we're running out of time for news, so head up the wiki article. I did want to show you one other project. It's called Skylon, and for those of you who know me, know that I'm actually a pretty big fan of the Skylon project.
Yes.
And rather than talk to you about what it is, once again, we have a video, so here you go.
We have main engine start.
For 60 years, there's only been one way to reach space, on a rocket blasting straight up, and it's always expensive. Imagine instead just taking off from a runway and flying into orbit. Meet Skylon, a British design for a space plane. It hasn't yet been built, but the project has reached a crucial stage. The key is a completely new kind of motor. An ingenious concept for a jet engine and a rocket rolled into one. The engineers go through their checks. This has to work if the space plane is to have a chance of flying. Because of the high pressures involved in this revolutionary jet engine, everyone has to wear protection. It's designed to go 5 times the speed of sound. And when it's going that quickly, the flow of air becomes so intense it reaches 1,000 degrees Celsius, which would normally melt everything inside. But this unique device cools the air to well below zero, which should make space travel easier. And the tests are now underway.
3, 2, 1, go!
This is one of a series of experiments to check if the idea is viable.
10,000 RPM.
This small band of engineers has worked with very little funding. So far so good, and the designers are thinking big.
It's like going to New York. You go down to an airport, you get on an aeroplane, and I mean, it's all pretty invisible. Getting into space will be like that with this type of technology.
The Skylon is a long way from launching, but the European Space Agency checked it over and found nothing wrong.
It may be something in the future, but where we stand today, looking at the technology, this should work.
So it could fly?
It could fly, yes.
But billions of pounds are needed. Clever engineering isn't enough to make this British space dream a reality. David Shuckman, BBC News at Culham in Oxfordshire.
But I think it can become a reality. I'm obviously there's a lot more testing that needs to happen, but Skylon is exciting to me because it is single stage to orbit. It can carry humans to orbit. It takes off like a plane. It lands like a plane, and it basically uses this single unified engine for both air flight and space flight. And as its main propulsion in space, they'll probably use some sort of hypergauss and move around. I don't know what they're going to do there.
I think in the article it said something along the lines of makes anywhere on the face of the planet only 4 hours away.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Completely revolutionized
like
transportation, kind of, but cooler.
Right?
Right? So, like way cooler. So that's what excites me about Skylon. I've always been endeared with Skylon. It's cool that they actually have hardware that they're testing. Someone in the chat room, I'm sorry, I don't remember who said it, it's probably decades away. You're probably right. Maybe a decade-ish. I don't know if it's decades plural or maybe like a decade away.
Right.
But it's certainly not right around the corner. So this is one of those longer-term space projects that I think is really cool, but they're running those tests now, and they're trying to get that engine working now, and that's the big key component to Skylon that makes it different than anything else, is that engine. And if they can get that engine working, that can revolutionize all space travel. Now we've got a different propulsion method to get off the planet. And this is the key difference between Masten Space Systems, SpaceX, Armadillo Aerospace, NASA, and everyone else is they all use the same fundamental technology built in the 60s and 50s. Right? It hasn't really changed. We've tweaked the formula a little bit, but it's still basically a giant fuel tank. This is a new method of propulsion to get up there that combines, it's still a giant fuel tank, but it does it in a different way.
Right. Well, it's a jet engine / rocket engine.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Exactly. So when we come back, there was a little bit of an announcement with some company. I'm not sure.
I heard something.
Something about some sort of mining. I don't know.
I don't know. We'll look at it.
We'll be right back.
This girl's a fascination, and nothing in her way will keep her from her destination. 'Cause she's fire walking, when it's hot.
So this last week, there was a press conference with a bunch of very large names.
Yeah.
Right. One of the key speakers. This was a conference for an organization called Planetary Resources, and this isn't one of those. Hey, we're thinking of doing this stuff. This was we've been around for a number of years.
Right.
We're just now ready to kind of tell you what we've been working on.
Right.
Actually, we've got a quick soundbite from Peter Diamandis talking about what this is. So let's start with this.
So today, I am very proud, along with my colleagues here on stage, to be announcing Planetary Resources. The vision of Planetary Resources is to make the resources of space available to humanity both in space and here on Earth. Whether it's propellant from water on asteroids or strategic metals and minerals that are important to promoting and creating a world of abundance here on Earth. So as Doug mentioned, I have the pleasure of having written a book called Abundance, The Future is Better Than You Think. We hit #1 on Amazon. We're 9 weeks on the New York Times list. And the book was a response of saying, you know, it's time to stop all this negative thinking. We are living into a world where individuals and small teams have the ability to do incredible things. Scarcity, which has been the model of the past, is contextual. And technology is an abundance liberating force. And whether it's abundance on metals and minerals and energy and real estate, these are the things in near infinite quantities in space. When I think about transforming that which is scarce to that which is abundant, I use the analogy of, say, an orange tree in my backyard. If all of a sudden I've plucked all of the oranges from the lowest hanging branches, oranges all of a sudden become scarce. Until I develop a technology as simple as a ladder that allows me to reach higher, and now oranges are abundant. For us, when we think about scarce metals, minerals, and such, as we move beyond the bounds of Earth to a solar system that is full of resources, we can bring those back to humanity.
Now, we have the full webcast online right now on our YouTube channel.
Which, in case you couldn't tell from the dual bug going on in the corner there, we were the official non-media outlet in order for people to be able to watch the webcast, which is why you kind of got the duality thing going on there.
Thanks for pointing that out.
Well, I mean, but it was really cool that we were able to do such a thing, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. What's really cool about Planetary Resources is that they got a ton of press.
Yeah, a ton.
Right, like not Spacevidcast press, right? I mean, we're going to cover them.
But it was everywhere. Cool. It was on The Daily Show. It was on CNN.
It was everywhere. Which just goes to show that people give a damn, right? Sometimes I wonder whether people want to go to the stars and whether there really is going to be money here. And I think by seeing the amount of enthusiasm behind the project and the positive feedback. You do something like this, and generally the crazies come out of the woodwork, and everyone's telling you, "Oh, it can't be done. You're crazy. This is a terrible idea." That's not what I'm hearing at all. And maybe I'm purposely not hearing it, but I'm really not hearing that. I'm hearing a lot of very supportive people. Now, part of the reason why people might be supportive is because it's real hardware. They're doing this in stages.
Again, that they didn't just say, "Hey, this is kind of something we have been sort of thinking about," but no. This is what we're doing. This is how we're doing it, and this is the equipment that we're going to be using, and that's a huge thing, I think.
I also want to point something out to everyone who's watching right now. We are in 2012, almost halfway through 2012 right now, and we are talking about mining asteroids, like. We're actually seriously talking about mining asteroids.
In a real way.
This is the point we are in humanity right now, where we're going, this is how we're going to mine these asteroids.
Right.
How awesome is that? That's just inspiring and makes me giddy, I think is the right word. So I'm really excited for this stuff. And this is the main topic for the show today is the topic is, what do you think of Planetary Resources? Is this something that we're going to be able to do? Do you think it's going to be something we're going to be able to do? And what do you think in general of the entire venture? So we'll start with... Before we go into our opinions, why don't we show you some of the hardware that they already have? Here's another quick video clip showing off the Well, here you go.
This is the Orchid 100.
This is Orchid 102, actually.
102.
It's in our series of 100 spacecraft, and this is our technology demonstrator and a capability that we use in low Earth orbit. Our first opportunity to start learning how to use new approaches, new technologies, new techniques to just dramatically reduce the cost of space exploration. And what's unique about this is its size and how we can fit it on the cubby holes in rockets that we don't have to buy the entire rocket for. So, doors over here, but you know, this folds up, and this can go in just a tiny little corner of a launch vehicle, and we can actually fit multiples on an individual launch vehicle. We can launch 3, 4, 5 at a time. And having 5 spacecraft in orbit, orbiting the Earth, allows you to do something what you could not do with one spacecraft, and that is to be able to go over Seattle at 10 after 11, 5 minutes later, go over it again, 5 minutes later, go over again. Remember, these things are traveling 28,000 miles an hour in orbit, and they are only over a particular spot in the ground very briefly. So if you can get that revisit time, you now start to get some time series information on what's going on the surface of the Earth. And with the element of time, you know how much more you can learn about that.
So its primary purpose is as a telescope?
Yes. It's a telescope, a technology demonstrator, and allows us to perfect the capability that we will then add propulsion capability to leave Earth's orbit, and then complete our deep space communication capability so that we can communicate with low-cost capability deep into space.
How much pointing ability does this have?
Yeah, there are actually no rockets on this. This has no propulsion. These, what you're seeing here, are star cameras. This gives us very precise pointing information on where we are oriented in space. And the way that we point these in space, we use a thing called reaction wheels, or control moment gyros. And if you see the ballerina or the ice skater spinning real fast, she stretches out her arms and slows down, you can use that property of physics in space to point something. And we're working on with research institutions on technologies that will take that basic stability and make it very fine pointing stability, sub-arc second pointing capability that will allow us to point a very fine beam of light back to Earth and send our data back to our mission control.
So you have an avionics system, you have gyros that help keep it stable. You have
lived my whole life running for these moments of time, where
batteries,
40 years.
and you've got
what are we waiting for? Why are we going out of space?
a small spacecraft that keeps that.
Where's that?
That's the CubeSat right there.
Oh, okay. So it's a CubeSat. What is that?
Yeah, so if you look that up, it'll be a CubeSat is a very small package spacecraft that has been a standard in the nanosat industry for quite some time, and we wanted the ability to carry that with us.
Had a number of different jobs.
So that is some of the demonstration hardware that they have, and they've flown these, right? So I believe they've. What you know, what we're going to do? We're going to get Chris on the show, who Chris Lewinsky, who is Lewicki. Sorry, what did I say? Chris
Lewinsky.
Lewicki.
Chris Lewicki.
From we know him from Yuri's Night, actually.
Yes, he did some work on Yuri's Night, absolutely.
We're going to get him on the show hopefully soon to talk about this in further detail, but I believe they flew the 100 series already.
Right,
so
but this is like the 102 series, I think?
Yeah, so what they're talking about isn't stuff that is pie in the sky type stuff.
Yeah.
Well, it's actually in the sky type stuff.
It is. It's not, but it's not theoretical.
Now, someone in the chat room said, and I haven't actually heard this, but Tawicked said Planetary Resources got over 1,000 resumes in the first 24 hours after the press conference.
Yeah, they tweeted that out.
So it's they confirmed
that. They said they were like, wow, we got like over 1,000 resumes in the first 24 hours. Like, we're going to be busy.
Yeah,
absolutely. And that was actually a common theme in the chat room while everything was going on. People were like, where do I send my resume to?
Absolutely. And actually it was fun because Chris in the press conference, in the Q&A section, I think it was, he said something along the lines of, look, if you're looking for a job, don't contact us. We're not going to hire you. If you're passionate about something and you want to live this dream, you want to make this your life, those are the people we're looking for.
Yep.
And I have little doubt that A, anyone watching this show all the way through is one of those people. But B, I think most of humanity, it's built into our DNA. Most of humanity is excited about this prospect. And there are some people who are saying, especially if you look at the comments on our YouTube video of the full conference, saying things like, it's going to drive the cost of precious metals down, it's going to bottom out the market. But keep in mind, the reason the cost of these metals are so high is because they're precious metals. There aren't very many of them. Platinum can be used for hydrogen reactions, which can be used on hydrogen cars. One of the things that prevents us from doing that is that platinum is a scarce resource on the planet. If suddenly platinum is an abundant resource, we can start to do things like hydrogen cars, which changes the economy of electricity itself.
Huge.
So we're not just talking about being able to mine resources from off-world. We're talking about fundamentally changing the way humanity sees everything. That's what we're really talking about.
That's exciting.
Here. This won't happen tomorrow. This is a long-term project, but it will happen, I think, faster than most any other projects that I've seen on the map thus far. And so I'm really excited about it. That's my 2 cents. How about you? What are your comments on the project?
You and I, of course, always see fairly eye to eye in general. Somebody else in the chat room had said that Planetary Resources are going to be the people who are selling resources to Elon on Mars, which I think is hysterical, and I would love to see, really, all in all.
That's not necessarily that far out. If you consider this, one of the most valuable resources in space isn't platinum, it isn't a metal, it isn't anything really foreign to us, it is water. Because if you have water, you can make fuel. And if you can make fuel now, rather than having to take water from Earth up to space, which is extremely cost prohibitive. It's heavy, it takes lots of room, it's just hard to do, it's expensive, woefully expensive. If you can get that water from in space, then all we need to do, consider this, all we need to do is launch from Earth to a station orbiting the Earth, a fuel depot. We fuel that depot from the minerals or from the water mined in space. So now we've got this huge amount of fuel. We refuel our craft at that fuel depot, send it to Mars. Now, instead of having to build these ginormous Saturn V-esque type vehicles, you can do it on a much smaller scale for much less money and just go up, fuel up your gas tank, send it over to Mars, have another one orbiting Mars, and just kind of back and forth, back and forth. It could completely change how humans access space. That's what we're talking about here.
Yeah, and I find that very exciting. I think that's really, really cool. But, that's me, because I like space. So there's that.
Now, what we're talking about is not simple stuff, right?
No,
so let's be clear.
This
isn't. It's not like all of a sudden tomorrow they're gonna have all the answers and find everything and be able to mine it. There's still a lot of hurdles. But what makes Planetary Resources exciting is that they talked about a lot of this. They gave us a very non-science fiction game plan. I guess a very realistic look at the future of how they can actually accomplish this. And I didn't see a whole lot of problem in what they were talking about. It actually made perfect sense. And again, they've flown.
There you go.
That made it exciting for me. Once again, what do you guys think? What do you think of Planetary Resources? And more specifically, what do you think about mining the resources out in space? One other comment I constantly hear is, we've screwed up our own planet. What gives us the right to go screw up the resources of space? Right? Another comment I've heard, I don't necessarily agree with any of these are just comments I've heard, is that corporations are very greedy, and because of that, they're just looking for a profit, and they're going to do whatever they can to turn a profit.
Right. Well, actually, even in the chat room, a question just came up: who regulates how much you can mine from other planets and moons, etc.? And at this point, pretty much no one.
Yeah, I don't think so.
And that was actually kind of a joke among some of my space friends. We're like, well, they can't just go up and do that. Really? Well, then why don't you go stop them? If you can stop them, then you can stop them.
So leave your comments on the Spacevidcast website. Leave them below whatever site you're watching this on, YouTube, Blip TV, whatever you happen to be watching on. We love to hear from you. And when you leave a comment, do it as a video comment if you can. Don't add graphics and music. Just give us your actual feedback. We just want a quick 60-second video comment.
Totally.
And when we come back, we're going to look at the video comments we had from last week's show. The last show. How about that?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So stay with us. We'll be right back with viewer comments.
Since I was young, I've been interested in flight and the physics behind flight. I'm really excited because I get to see with my own eyes the new explorations that they're coming up with and the new adventures that take place right now.
This education partnership will be supported by the Virgin Galactic customers.
We're all interested in different parts of it, so some of us are interested in flight, some of us are interested in space. I'd love to go to space, it'd be brilliant.
3, 2, 1, fire.
To me, it feels like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity because how often do people get to say, "Oh yeah, my project's been in space.
My experiment's up in space."
Yeah,
yeah, pretty cool.
I just want to say on behalf of Galactic, congratulations to all the students. I was so impressed. So give yourselves a round of applause. You guys are going to be the scientists and the physicists and the engineers of the future that are going to be building the spaceship 3s and 4s and 5s.
Normally I didn't care about science, but then I took this class and I was like, "Whoa, this is cool."
So in last week's show, we asked you what the future of space looked like, and we got some pretty interesting comments. And they're actually all over the board. So these are comments from all over the show. This first comment was an inspired comment. I think it's one of those reawakening of your excitement of space, right? Because when you're little, you're kind of excited about space, and
your
then
excitement rekindled. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. Rekindled excitement. You're little, you're excited. You grow older, and now you're not as excited. And then some key thing needs to trigger that excitement again. And so this one just made me smile. So here you go.
Hey guys, my name's Ben. I'm a games designer, musician, and an artist. More importantly than that, I'm a dreamer. And I dream big. What bigger thing is there to dream about than the universe and all of its contents? If you think of things like black holes, the panspermia theory, stars being born, it all kind of starts to fit together like pieces of a puzzle, but the ultimate puzzle on such a large general relativity scale and a tiny quantum mechanics scale. How are we ever going to understand all of this? It's what my face looks like when I think about that. I've already got my poster. I dream of space, and now I've got the chance to become an astronaut. But if you want to make my chances greater, please go right ahead. I love the work you're doing there, and I really can't wait to get some more free time to become a part of the community and help push forward this cause as much as possible. Keep it up, guys. Cheers. That's probably why I do this bit.
Yeah, you think so? What he was talking about, idreamofspace.com. Did you want to really do a 60-second elevator pitch on that?
idreamofspace.com is selling you digital backgrounds that you can print out as real posters if you like, but the big thing is that there's a sales promotion, ongoing sales promotion, in which that when you buy one of these digital backgrounds, you are entered in for a 1 in 250,000 chance, 25,000 chance, I'm bad at math, of going into space, of getting a real ticket to go into real space for reals.
For realsies.
For realsies. True story. So that's pretty much the deal there. You can go ahead and hit up idreamofspace.com. iDreamOfSpace also has a Facebook page, etc., and they love your comments and questions and concerns and complaints.
So $10 equals space.
Maybe.
Exactly. The next comment comes from Spacevidcaster regular U5KO. I keep saying O, but it's actually a 0.
Right. Well, and USKO.
Oh, yeah. He changes it just to mess with us.
U5KZ. I mean,
This is a longer comment, and I thought about trimming it down to make it more like a 1 minute kind of content, which is all right.
Right.
But sometimes you just got to let it go. So, and this was a good one. So we're going to play the full comment for you just because it was really good. So here you go. This is from U5KO.
This video addresses the possibility for a future where humanity continuously expands its reach away from Earth and into the wider cosmos. It has been noted by smarter people than I that great civilizational endeavors are motivated by either military, economic, or fundamental ideological drivers. If we want space to receive much more funding than it currently does, one of these motivators would need to be mobilized. I claim that this is unrealistic in the case of economic and ideological drivers, and that attempting to revive the existential high-wire act which underpinned the Cold War would be an unacceptably high risk to take. In the event that I'm being overly pessimistic and an economic or ideological motivator can be made to drive space exploration, then the remainder of this video is nothing more than an outline of an optional extra feature of future space activities. If, however, the opposite is true, then that optional extra becomes critical to supplying humanity with the space program we deserve. Even without a broad civilizational mobilization, some overall global funding boosts are to be expected simply due to an expanding global economy and the emergence of newly industrialized nations. This alone, however, will likely not be enough to continuously advance a space frontier. I can't predict the future. I can, however, see certain trends emerging in the human space endeavor which seem to have added value, or give more bang for your buck. In searching for such trends, it makes sense to start by looking at the largest peaceful space project ever undertaken, the International Space Station program. These are the ISS partner nations. The selection isn't really surprising. We see the world's largest industrial powerhouse, the United States, along with Canada. We notice the Russian Federation, which inherited the crown jewel of the Soviet Union, its space program. To the east of Russia lies Japan, until recently the world's second largest industrial producer. And as always, there's a special case, Europe. Now, given the industrial capacity of these countries, you'd expect Germany, France, and perhaps Italy to take part in the ISS effort. But there's more here. There's Spain and Sweden, Norway and Denmark, there's Belgium and Holland, and Switzerland. So what gives? These aren't individual ISS partner countries, they're ESA member states. It's important to realize that a number of these countries have their own space agencies which work on crucial national activities but simply don't have the resources to carry out world-class missions on their own. These big projects are carried out by ESA, often in cooperation with member space agencies. I suggest that this model could bring a great deal of benefit were it to be replicated and globalized. It could be argued that ESA is unique, an anomaly, that it couldn't be replicated or expanded worldwide. The answer to such doubts must simply be, it already has been replicated. ESA is only one of many international science-based organizations. Some of the others include the European Southern Observatory, CERN, the ILL Institute, the Facility for Anti-Proton and Ion Research, and the European Molecular Biology Laboratory. Beyond simple replication, these formal cooperation frameworks are expanding to a more global scale. India became a member of the ILL Institute in 2011 and is a member of FAIR along with Russia and other European countries. Brazil is set to join ESO in 2012. The Molecular Biology Lab admitted Australia as an associate member in 2008. CERN has granted different levels of partnership to dozens of nations, and ESA has an enlargement agenda encompassing well over a dozen nations. Moreover, for the first time in history, there exists an international space exploration coordination group. This includes space agencies from Europe, the United States, Canada, China, India, Korea, Japan, Australia, and Russia. The point is that this can be done, as evidenced by the fact that it is being done. If you take anything away from this video, remember the following. Paraphrasing the late great Christopher Hitchens, I don't like the Cold War. Not really, except for one small aspect. When human civilization was hanging by a thread in the 1960s, there was an entire interval when a determined portion of humanity continuously advanced the space frontier. All I want to propose is that if the human species is to rise to the full height which is demanded by our dignity and by all the potential that our intelligence has to offer, we must all endeavor to move to a state of affairs where that condition is permanent.
I can cut any time, but I'm gonna let it keep going. I figured we went that far.
So mean. He's got his finger on the button.
I do. I'm like, well, you know.
Whatever.
No, I thought it was a really well thought out, insightful comment. You know, it was a longer comment, but I thought it was worth every minute of it.
Yeah.
He generally thinks things through a little bit before he.
Really? I don't really see him as being a thoughtful.
A lot more than me, who I just spew out whatever I want on air. How's that?
Thank you. Thank you.
So absolutely, thank you. And of course, you can. This is going to be very meta. You can leave comments to the comments you saw as well. I know.
Like it.
Again, we prefer video comments. This one came in today. This is from. Is he in the room?
Uncle?
Yep.
I think so.
Uncle BS, which stands, the BS are his initials, by the way.
Yes.
Came up with this comment, and I thought it was a really good way to close the show. I thought it was very, very appropriate. This is in regards to, you know, we'll talk about it afterwards because there is a slight point of confusion. So here you go.
Years before the last shuttle mission, NASA and all the folks interested in space began talking about the next thing that would fill the gap between shuttle and COTS. The Russian Progress and Japanese HDV were designed to be gap fillers between shuttle missions. When Discovery returned to space, gap fillers became a part which didn't perform as well as expected. They were even thought of as a danger and had to be removed and discarded. To have a gap, you need to have a space between two like things, and especially for those of us who grew up with Shuttle, there's not likely to be anything as magnificent as Shuttle again. When Shuttle ended, that gap became more like a cliff. Planetary Resources wants to be the first company to mine asteroids. Try telling Peter Diamandis and Eric Anderson that that's a nice gap filler until there's a permanent mining colony on the moon. If I had a COTS company that was trying to be the first to get to the ISS, I'd resent being called a gap filler. Let's stop diminishing that achievement by calling it shuttle replacement or a gap filler, and give the first COTS company to make it to the ISS their well-deserved place in history as the first. As for the folks who valiantly tried between the government-run supply missions and the first COTS company to make it to the ISS, well, they can be classified as the ones who attempted to fill the gap. Spacevidcast was the first website on the planet to stream shuttle launches in full HD. They out-NASA on the web and TV. Go ahead. Tell Ben that Spacevidcast was a nice gap filler until NASA got its act in gear. Just be sure that I'm on the opposite coast when you do it.
Being on the opposite coast would be a good idea. I would fight. Well, no, I would fight to say that you know, while NASA caught up finally with the HD thing 2 years after we started doing it, we had so far moved beyond that into the interactive show format.
Yes.
That I don't know how NASA can begin to do. I just don't think they have the proper mindset to be able to do an interactive show like this where you can ask any question you want. And actually, most space companies, I don't believe, are able to do this, which is what I think makes Spacevidcast so much fun and so much more different than everything else. It also makes a 45-minute show go a lot faster than if we were just sitting here talking to you. It's a two-way conversation.
Right.
But of course, if you're watching on YouTube, it is a one-way conversation, so we encourage you to join us live every Saturday-ish at 2100 Coordinated Universal Time. That's 2 o'clock p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. What's that,
5 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time.
There you go. And it's a lot of fun. We interact with you in the live chat room right here on spacevidcast.com. Also, remember, there is something called a Spacevidcast Epic subscription. That's what helps us make this show possible. In addition to doing these really long-form shows that you saw today, we also want to start up our Space Pods, which are the short 5-minute YouTube, small and easy to consume, just space news episodes. And Spacevidcast Epic subscribers starts about $10 a month. That helps us produce these shows. In addition, as our thank you back to you, you get an ad-free show. So all the advertisements you saw on the show, all the Google pop-up ads, the pre-rolls, the mid-rolls, the post-rolls, those all go away. You don't get ads on the website. And you also get access to exclusive content. So when we do events like the Planetary Resources webcast, you get the extended event, including the Q&A session.
Yep.
When we do a AIAA meeting, you get the whole thing, including the Q&A session. Yep. And while we give most of that away for free because we want to get the public excited about space again, and so to make that work, we give it as much of it away for free as we can. It's that little last bit, for those true space geeks. That's one where we say, you know, you got to help us out a little bit. And that's what we make available to Spacevidcast Epic subscribers. So sign up today, spacevidcast.com/epic, and we absolutely appreciate your support. And once again, love your comments. Leave them on YouTube, email them, whatever you want to do. The video comments are best. Try to avoid using music because then if you use something we can't air, we can't use it. And then also try to avoid graphics because we might cut them off. Just give us your comment, 60 to 120 seconds, just boom, straight. What did you think of the show? What would you do differently in space? Why do you care? Why are you excited about space? Any topics we talked about today? Any closing notes from you?
Yeah, just really quickly. Space Up Kansas is going on tomorrow.
God, it was one of those items we cut in the beginning.
Yes, unfortunately. But yeah, so Space Up Kansas, we are, of course, are here in California and unfortunately will not be able to make it to Kansas. It's about a 5 to 7 hour event, I believe is what they're doing. So it's just a one-day event. This time round, it's their first time, but, you know, yay, Kansas. I think that's really exciting. And it will be broadcast here. We've got some equipment over there and some people sort of handling that part of it for us. So if you're not in Kansas, feel free to watch it here on spacevidcast.com. Otherwise, if you are in Kansas, go! It's a free event and you get swag bags, all NASA goodies and stuff. It should be really awesome. So I'm really excited about that. That's all.
You got it right there.
I do. I know. That's why I wore the shirt today.
Awesome. All right. I'd like to thank everyone for watching. We may or may not have a show next week due to the Falcon 9 Flight 3 launch.
Yeah, there's some kind of thing going on next week.
So we're going to try. I actually happen to have it's really weird that it happened this way. I have an open window right during showtime where I can possibly do the show, but I make no guarantees. So please watch our Twitter account for the status on next week's show. Otherwise, go SpaceX. I'm excited to see the Falcon 9 launch. Static firing coming up this Monday. Thank you so much for watching. After Dark is up next, available to Spacevidcast Epic subscribers. See you next week.